harassment.
Over the weekend, there was a bit of a controversy involving a PR executive by the name of Justine Sacco.
Internet mobs.
But so many are wondering how a public relations executive could spark such a public relations disaster.
Life ruination.
By the time she landed yesterday, that tweet had gone global and she had been fired.
Today we'll tell the story of the time Twitter journalists destroyed a woman's life as the site's users dogpiled with glee. And even a decade later, we can still look back at one of the most infamous mobs of internet history. Justine Sacco was a 30-year-old woman who lived in New York City. She moved to the area after graduating from university to pursue work as a publicist. The philosophy major scored quite a few high-profile gigs, including work for the WWE. But it's the job she took after that's most relevant for today's story. In 2011, Justine left her wrestling gig to become the communications director for Interactive Corp. IAC owns hundreds of brands across the globe, including Dictionary.com and Vimeo. That made it a massive undertaking, but she proved more than capable. Within 2 years, she was promoted to a senior position. It was around that time that Justine also became more active on Twitter. The account, which was her full legal name, had less than 200 followers. Because of this, outside of the occasional corporate news, she treated it like a personal blog. The young professional felt comfortable tweeting edgy jokes under the belief no one would see them. But as we'll discover, that couldn't have been further from the truth. In the winter of 2013, Justine planned to visit family in Cape Town, South Africa. The flight took over 24 hours across 2 separate planes. Naturally, she quelled her boredom at the terminal on social media. It was in the early hours of December 19th that she made the first tweet of her trip. "Weird German dude. You're in first class. It's 2014. Get some deodorant." 12 hours later, she landed at Heathrow for a layover. She cracked another writing, "Chili, cucumber sandwiches, bad teeth, back in London." These posts received little to no interactions. It was perhaps the lack of engagement that led her to try even harder. 1 hour later, she tweeted, "Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white." Justine chuckled to herself and waited, but once again, she got no replies. By then, it was takeoff time, so she turned off her phone. It was another 12-hour flight, and with nothing else to do, she fell asleep. Unbeknownst to her, however, she would awaken as one of the most hated people on the entire internet. You see, while no one interacted with the post, it hadn't gone unseen. One of her 170 followers took offense and sent it to Gawker journalist Sam Biddle. It was a slow news day that Friday afternoon, so the writer pounced. Biddle shared the tweet to his 15,000 followers and then posted it as a brief on Gawker. He highlighted her employment at IAC, pointing out the irony in being their PR agent. This quickly caught the attention of other reporters, who spread it further. Before long, tens of thousands of users were piling on Justine. They accused her of racism and even called for her deportation from Africa. Some went so far as to hope she contracted the virus as karmic justice. One individual went so far as to accuse her of planning to ride bareback in Africa. The overwhelming sentiment was that Justine should lose her job, as the mob salivated over the idea of ruining her life. They gloated that the woman's career was over, and asked how it felt to be fired before Christmas. But to their dismay, they received no response. In most instances, offenders delete their tweets quickly and apologize. Yet, even as her name trended globally, being covered in the New York Times, CNN, and ABC, it was radio silence. And they became increasingly curious as to why she wasn't responding. It was initially speculated that her account may have been hacked. Perhaps Justine was innocent, and the joke was written by a troll. But older tweets quickly surfaced contradicting this. The worst were compiled in a BuzzFeed article titled, "16 Tweets Justine Sacco Regrets." It includes comments about Jews, assault, and wet dreams she had about an autistic minor. While many inferred she was on a plane, there was no definitive proof. That is, until IAC themselves issued a statement. The company disavowed her comments, but clarified she was currently unreachable due to being on an international flight. While not explicitly fired, her removal from the site spoke volumes. This revelation gamified the controversy. Not only was she being punished, but they could now anticipate her reaction. As one user put it, "We are about to watch this Justine Sacco bit get fired in real time before she even knows she's getting fired." There was so much excitement that the hashtag "Has Justine landed yet?" began trending worldwide. Before long, they found the country she was traveling to and eventually her exact flight. This enabled them to track the woman's every move, counting down the minutes until her arrival. People even suggested that someone confront her in person. Is there no one in Cape Town going to the airport to tweet her arrival? Come on, Twitter, I'd like pictures. I actually feel bad for her. She's going to be under massive assault once she lands. What the hell was she thinking? The controversy had become a full-on spectacle. Hundreds of fake accounts were being made to mock and mimic her likeness. They spouted out extreme bigotry and referred to her as Justine Psycho. Others embraced it as the internet's latest meme. Image macros, movie posters, and Photoshop spread like wildfire across the web. This led many to see it as an opportunity for self-promotion. From donations to flat-out advertisements, everyone wanted a piece. Aid for Africa even bought the domain, justinesacco.com, to redirect to their homepage. Donald Trump himself would notice, commenting, "Justine, what the hell are you thinking? Are you crazy? Not nice or fair. I will support Aid for Africa. Justine is fired." The site quickly received so much traffic it was forced offline. And with that, it was only a matter of time before the plane landed. Twitter would finally watch a woman lose everything in real time, and bask in her misery as a smug grin collectively appeared on their face. We'll find out what would happen as the wheels hit the runway after a brief word from our sponsor. The holiday season is approaching, and with that, many people are looking for gifts for their partner. And if you're looking for products of the adult variety, Adam and Eve is the place to shop. Having been in business for over 50 years, they are experts when it comes to anything in grown-up toys and lingerie. And right now, if you use my discount code GFM at checkout, you will get 50% off one item plus free shipping in the US or Canada. Again, go to adamandeve.com and use code GFM at checkout to get 50% off one item and free shipping in the US and Canada. Justine Sacco landed in Cape Town, South Africa on December 22nd at around 5:20 p.m. It was as the plane taxied that she finally turned on her phone. The device immediately flooded with notifications. The first was from someone she hadn't seen since high school. "I am so sorry to see what's happening to you." The next was from her best friend. "You need to call me right now. You are the worldwide #1 trending topic on Twitter." Immediately she deleted all her social media pages, but it was too late, as it did little but alert the mob of her awareness. To make matters worse, a Twitter user named Zach ended up camping at the airport for Justine. Upon seeing her, he secretly took a photo with the caption, "She decided to wear sunglasses as a disguise." Zach then eavesdropped on her conversation with family to live tweet it. Eventually, he introduced himself and had a conversation with her dad. He's South African. He didn't want to raise her there because of racism. Oh, the irony. He's apologetic and basically in tears. Justine's father went on to call her an effing idiot, who made him incredibly ashamed. Her aunt went further, calling the woman a disgrace to their family. As the World Wide Web would discover, the Saccos had been longtime activists for racial equality. Justine's tweets could have potentially tainted their entire legacy. Within hours, as many predicted, Justine was fired from IAC, but that was the least of her concern. The disgraced agent spent the next day penning a formal apology to the country. It reads in part, "I was born here. I cherish my ties to South Africa and my frequent visits, but I am in anguish knowing that my remarks have caused pain to so many people. Unfortunately, this didn't stop her vacation from being cut short. She was unable to find a hotel, as the staff of every place she booked threatened to go on strike. Because of this, she was forced to leave before Christmas. Upon returning to NYC, Justine tried to move on, but she found herself traumatized and unable to focus. This led her to travel again that May, this time to Ethiopia. She spent that month living in a rural community, volunteering at a non-profit organization. It was a much-needed refreshing break. Afterwards, she flew back to the US, finding work at the flailing company Hot or Not. That caught the attention of the journalist who broke her story. Sam Biddle jumped on the opportunity to mock her, writing in an article, "How perfect! Two lousy has-beens gunning for a comeback together." He took pride in what he had done. In an email exchange, he recalled the cancellation as delicious and satisfying. But this tune changed after Sam received his own public shaming later that year. The writer was put under fire for declaring society should bring back bullying. He claimed that nerds should be constantly shamed and degraded into submission. This tweet led Gawker to lose sponsors, including the entirety of Adobe. 2 months after this, he published a public apology to Justine, conceding he'd misjudged her. They'd met for drinks, causing him to realize she wasn't the racist monster he imagined. The joke, as it turns out, wasn't even intended to be racist, and instead self-deprecatory. It was meant to be a comment on white privilege. As she clarified, living in America puts us in a bit of a bubble when it comes to what is going on in the third world. I was making fun of that bubble. But because of Twitter's character limit and mob mentality, all nuance was lost. Unfortunately, after the initial moment, her story was largely forgotten by the public. There was no urgency to correct the record, as people simply moved on to the next subject. That is, until writer John Ronson published his book, So You've Been Publicly Shamed. It discusses the resurgence of mob justice as a punishment on social media. This meant a focus on Justine, and others like her, as he took a more empathetic approach to coverage. The book contains many details gathered from their personal conversations. This included his argument that the basis of the entire controversy, that it was a racist joke, wasn't even true. He summarized it by stating, "It wasn't racist, but a reflective critique of white privilege, on our tendency to naively imagine ourselves immune from life's horrors." That helped restore Justine's public image, as people began to realize the situation wasn't black and white. Ronson disseminated the information through editorials and a TED Talk. The latter has become quite popular, accumulating nearly 3 million views. In the end, Justine's career managed to fully recover. Interestingly, in 2018, Justine began working for the online dating company Match Group. It was originally part of IAC before spinning off in 2015. Because of this, for a brief moment, she was technically under her original employer. She continues to work for Match Group to this very day. For as harrowing as the treatment of Justine Sacco was by Twitter, at the very least, it's nice to know that things ended up okay, because that outcome seems very rare nowadays, and can't be said for other cases like it. So there you have the story of how Twitter gleefully destroyed a woman's life. And with that, I think I'll end the video here. So until next time, thanks for watching.